Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. AITA for holding out a grudge against my ex-wife. Is it wrong of me to enjoy her and her current husband's misery? I know people should move on and not sully their own character for revenge, but can you blame me, really? I know people should move on and not sully their own character for revenge, but can you blame me, really? I know the title makes me sound like a jerk, but hear me out and then decide if I was really an a-hole here or was my behavior justified. So I divorced my ex-wife 2 years ago. At that time, we were married for almost 5 years, and our total relationship lasted for about 8 years. We met through a mutual friend from my first job. We were so compatible that we instantly connected, and I was smitten with her. When we started dating, there were a few incidents where she was still looking at her options, and I did think at one point that she could never be held down in a committed relationship. Because of those doubts, I never could bring myself to define our relationship. But all my doubts ended when she proposed to me. That was all the proof I needed of her loyalty. We got married pretty soon after getting engaged. In all our married life, I never once thought of doubting her commitments towards me. I completely trusted her and didn't ask any questions when she went out with her guy friends. Thankfully, the friend that was responsible for us meeting was also the one who caught her in a compromised situation with another guy. Although he didn't tell me anything himself, he did force my wife to confess the truth. After I found she was having an affair, I was still ready to forgive her and work it out. But when she came clean, she told me that it was going on for 7 to 8 months, and there have been more guys before him. I was so shocked, I didn't know what to say. One guy I could deal with, but more than once? And on top of that, she didn't sound apologetic at all. I just asked her one question after listening to her. All I wanted to know was if she feels guilty or if she'd make different choices if she could repeat her life. All she said was that that's not the kind of person she is, and she doesn't think she can be happy with only one partner. My blood boiled after hearing that. My trust in her and our marriage was completely broken, and the way I saw her changed. I loathed the sight of her face and the sound of her voice after that. I still can't figure out why she proposed to me in the first place, if she knew that she's not the kind of person who can settle down. We ended up getting a quiet, mutual divorce, and I left her behind. I moved on and was finally able to live my life when I received a call from her last week. When I first saw the unknown number, I wondered who could call me so early in the morning. I haven't even woken up completely. When I picked up, I instantly recognized her voice. I considered hanging up, but for some reason ended up asking her what she's calling me for. She told me that she needs my help really urgently and she would really appreciate it if for one moment I can keep aside my anger and hurt and remember the woman whom I loved. I couldn't believe she was really trying to play that card. She started crying on the phone and told me that if I could visit her that day, she'll tell me everything. Since her crying made me extremely uncomfortable, I told her to send me the address and I'll be there. I left for her house that afternoon. I knocked on the door and a man opened it. I wondered who he was, but he seemed to know me. He guessed my name and invited me in. Once I went in, I saw pictures of my ex-wife marrying this man. My blood boiled at that sight. This woman cheated on me and ended up marrying another man. How much worse can this whole ordeal get? We sat in the living room and my ex-wife joined us pretty soon. She sheepishly said hi. I ignored her greeting and just asked her to get to the point. Now that I was in her house with her in front of my eyes, I didn't know how long I could control myself from bursting out in anger. She then told me she missed me all this time. I was appalled at her saying those words. I looked at her husband, but he seemed to not care at all. That's when I realized how it was for them. They probably have an open relationship or something. I again asked them to get to the point. My ex wife then launched into a story of how she and her husband were investing in different businesses, and that was their main source of income. But one of the businesses they invested in turned out to be illegal and laundered money. They were caught, and a whole investigation was launched against them. Everyone associated with them suffered huge losses. But since the owner was one of her husband's friends, they had the biggest investment and they ended up losing everything they had. They were also charged fine for helping an illegal business set up, and now they have no money left. Then both my ex wife and her husband burst into tears and started begging me to help them. My ex wife told me that she had no one else to go to, and I'm the only one who can help her. She started asking me to help her if I ever loved her. Listening to all this, I was so shocked that I honestly considered just getting up and leaving the place. How can she even ask for such a thing? Has she completely lost her mind? Does she have no shame? I was more upset by the fact that she thought asking me in front of her husband was seriously a better idea than asking me by herself. The whole thing was so ridiculous that I just started laughing at them. I told her she must have been really desperate to ask me for help, the person she cheated on. I told her that I would rather watch her lick the streets than help her. I told her that if she really hates her situation so much, why doesn't she ask one of her many lovers she must be seeing, since she can't have only a single partner? I then told her husband how pathetic he is. Looking right now, if he had any self respect, he would divorce this woman and try to make up for what he did. I then got up and left. I couldn't bear to look at their faces, even for one more second. Now, don't get me wrong, money isn't a problem since I have a well paying job and I also have a good inheritance I got from my father. But why waste that on such pathetic humans? Was I wrong to let them be? Should I have chosen the high road? I don't know if this makes me an a-hole, but I really couldn't help but laugh at them. The way I see it, she deserves this hell after what she did to me. So I didn't really think that I'd talk to my ex ever again after the last incident I talked about in my original post. But she called me a few days ago. I was really not in the mood of talking to her, and that's why I ignored all her calls. That night, I was alone at my home just chilling when I received a text from her. She said that she just needs one last chance to explain everything to me, and if I'd give her this chance, she'd never bother me again. I didn't really think there was anything left to explain. I didn't even know if I actually wanted her to explain or give more excuses about anything. But if she keeps her word and doesn't ever bother me again after I listen to her one last time, I could finally end her chapter and never look back. The opportunity was a good one and it felt like a much needed closure. So I texted her back, giving her a time and the address to a restaurant. That weekend on Saturday, I met with her. I don't know what I was expecting, an apology or her reasons for still being with that man. But I did not expect her to continue to beg me for money. As soon as she started talking, she said that she really is sorry for how things turned out between us. She said she won't lie and say that her decisions were wrong because she still firmly believes in her freedom, but she does regret the way she went about it all. She shouldn't have proposed to me when she knew too well that one partner won't be enough for her. Then she asked me to help her out. She said that she can't change the past and I am not obligated to help her, but if I could just lend her some money, she would make sure to pay me back. She said she'd do anything I want, she'd lose my number, and would leave me alone forever if only I'd help her one last time. She'd even make sure that I get my money back without having to come in contact with her. I was really surprised to hear her say that. I couldn't for any reason figure out why she was being so desperate. And all of this isn't even her problem. I asked her, why isn't she leaving the man? If she just walks away from him, this would all be over and she'd never have to worry about it. And if she really is the same person who never believed in one single partner, leaving a man shouldn't be that hard for her. But she just looked at me and smiled. It was really infuriating to see that expression on her face. After a while, she said that she isn't the same person. She had only been with this one man since her marriage, and she really loved him enough to fully commit to him. I couldn't believe her. It seems like she really has changed. I didn't know what I was thinking when I went to meet her, but one thing was certain. Our meeting and her words only managed to make me more angry. I was getting tired of wasting my energy on her. I wanted to get this over with, so I told her I'd give her the money and there's no need for her to pay me back since I considered this money as payment for her to leave me alone. Then I left the restaurant and came back home. I was very exhausted from our talk, but at the same time, it felt like I had finally moved on. The hurt she caused me and the anger I felt every time I thought about her wasn't there anymore. The next day, I transferred her the money. With that, I really hope this will be the end of our relationship. I am no longer angry at her. In fact, it's the first time that her name doesn't make me feel anything. NTA, you're not the a-hole here. Your wife cheated on you and left you and then called you to ask for help. She and her shameful husband are the real a-holes without a shred of dignity. I don't understand how people can beg their exes for money. Don't they have a conscience or an ego? NTA, you did nothing wrong here. I'm glad you were able to take some kind of satisfaction out of this situation your ex put you into. My girlfriend, 28, female, and I, 31, male, have been dating for 4 years. I purchased my first home last year and we moved in together. She is not on the title and she does not pay anything towards the mortgage. She is in grad school and works part time, so she simply doesn't have that kind of money right now. She helps pay for utilities and groceries, but that's pretty much else. Honestly, I think she's getting a pretty sweet deal. I do, however, expect her to do chores around the house. She was brought up in a very sheltered environment. She's the youngest of four siblings, and, in my opinion, her parents babied the crap out of her. Her dad, in particular, did everything for her. When we first started dating, she was still taking her car to him so that he could bring it in for oil changes. Since she's moved in with me, there's definitely been a learning curve. I had to teach her how to clean and do dishes. She didn't know that you can't just put absolutely everything in the dishwasher. Cooking is a hard no from her, and she's perfectly fine ordering out for every single meal. She'd never used a rake or lawnmower or shoveled snow. I like to think I've been very patient with her in regards to teaching her these things, but pretty much everything I try to teach her is met with resistance or is too hard or too dirty, and she gives up and expects me to do it. I've let a lot of this go because I love her, and I know that a lot of this is her parents' fault, not hers. But last weekend, I finally had it. I had to go visit my parents to help my dad with a project he's working on. This had been arranged for weeks, so my girlfriend knew about it. Before I left, I asked her if she could mow the lawn at some point during the weekend because it was getting long. It was literally the only thing I asked her to do. When I got home on Sunday, the lawnmower was in the middle of the half mown yard. I asked girlfriend what that was about, and she said that it ran out of gas and she didn't know what to do. She said she called her dad for help, but he's out of town and he told her to fill a tank up at a gas station, but she didn't know where the tank was or how to fill the lawnmower. So she just left everything as it was so that I could help her. I told her I was tired of her acting like she's completely incapable of figuring stuff out on her own. I told her it's ridiculous that she can watch a 5-minute YouTube video of a new makeup technique and figure it out first try, but she can't figure out how to pour gas into a lawnmower. I told her I'm tired of her weaponized incompetence, and if she's not going to pull her weight on chores, then she's going to have to start paying rent to live here. She got defensive and told me I shouldn't be treating her like she's a servant and expecting her to do things she's never done before, and that I'm an a-hole for expecting her to pay rent when I know she can't afford it, and she won't help me pay my mortgage and get nothing out of it. It's not that she's weaponizing incompetence, she's just actually incompetent. It's her unwillingness to learn or try something that doesn't fit her narrow view of her lifestyle. Arguably worse. NTA. NTA. So basically, she told you she isn't going to act like an adult. I think she needs to move back in with daddy so he can keep her. I also find it strange she did not call you to ask those questions. Actually, I do know why, because you tell her, unlike her dad, who do it for her. I'd find an actual adult to date, as this one isn't done maturing yet. I'm 20 years old, female. My mom died 7 years ago, and my little brother, E, 10, male, was 3 years old. It really devastated all of us, and of course, I miss her more than anything. If she was still here, things would be so much better than they currently are. Her death really destroyed my dad. He just became really withdrawn and pretty much only focused on going to work and coming home. He fell back on taking care of E, so I started doing it instead. I would miss out on school dances, social events, awards ceremonies, etc. to take care of my brother. I stopped even trying to go out because when I did, my dad would always ask me to cancel plans to look after E anyway. I was supposed to go out of state for college, but because I knew my brother would end up having to fend for himself, I picked local school instead. I still live at home and even work from there so that I can help out too. I've tried not to be upset about it too much because my father lost his wife and I know that he's hurting. But I just wish I could do something other than be my brother's parent. School started up again for my brother recently, and while I was making dinner, he took a flyer out of his backpack and gave it to me. It was a notice about a meet the teacher night. He was telling me all about the other details of it when our dad walked in the kitchen and asked what was going on. My little brother kind of dismissed him and told him it was just between the two of us, but maybe he'd talk to him about it later. The topic was switched after that, and my brother didn't bring it up again before he went to bed, so I didn't really think anything else of it. We did the whole teacher night thing, which I informed my dad of via text. And when we got back home, my dad sent my brother upstairs because he wanted to talk to me. He told me that I need to tell my brother that I am not the one he should be asking about important school stuff because I'm not his mother and I'm definitely not his parent. He said it was disrespectful of me to even take E to the event in the first place, but especially malicious for me to let my brother continue acting as though I am his mom. The whole thing just pissed me off. I told my dad that it's his fault my brother views me that way to begin with because he clearly wasn't up to doing the job after our mom died, and that the only person he should be upset at is himself for making his grieving daughter take up all of the duties that he fell short on after the death of his wife. I told a friend what happened, and she does think I'm right, but she also thinks it was cruel of me to say it like that to my dad because clearly he's still hurting. Now, I'm not sure if I was being an a-hole. NTA, your dad needed a wake up call. Hopefully, he realizes his mistakes and rectifies what he can, at least with your brother. Your dad owes you a massive apology and needs to take responsibility for the hurt he caused you. NTA, you are 13-year-old child, stepped up and kept the family going because your dad selfishly focused on himself and couldn't be asked to help his children. Sounds like you handled this incredibly well and maturely, but now that your dad has woken up, expect him to continue his selfish behavior, possibly by trying to put a wedge between you and your brother. I'm really sorry you're in this situation. Now that your brother is older and your dad possibly starting to take an interest too, maybe you can start going out and socializing more. NTA, parentification is what he did to you. He is mourning, but all of you are. I can't help but feel there's an element of misogyny rooted in him expecting you to take over the care of your brother.